Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to LinkedIn Tuesday. It's June 2nd, 2026. We're very glad you're with us this afternoon. Please note this event will be recorded. The recording will be on the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. For everybody who is on Zoom, I highly recommend go ahead and open it up, put in your name, the position you're looking for, give us 2 or 3 target companies that we may be able to help you with, give us your email, your LinkedIn address, phone if you'd like, and the cities so we know where you're watching from. And then if you have companies that you have connections that you could share with other people, please put those on. And at the end of this call, be sure to save the chat, connect with everybody else who's on the call today, expand your connections because you never know who may be able to help you in your next job. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org, a website to help those unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I launched a second website, careerusa.org, to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search That You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon. If you see me in person, I always have copies with me. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. That group's been around since the late 1990s. I took it over in 2007 when the prior leader landed a job. And I'll tell you about our upcoming program this Friday at the end of this session. And since 2017, I've been a member of the PIT crew, also known as the Practice Interview Team. Don't wait until you have an interview to schedule an interview. Schedule one now. They like to say, practice early, practice often, because when somebody calls you up, you want to be ready to go. Well, we have 4 outstanding speakers who talk about LinkedIn. They rotate through on a monthly basis. Today, our speaker is Kurt VandeMotter. He's going to talk about LinkedIn from a recruiter's eye. So, Kurt, thank you very much for being here, and it's all yours.
Well, thanks, Jeff. Good afternoon, everybody. So, Jeff, the the saga on LinkedIn. Um,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody that's on the call today was on our call last month, but unfortunately, I had an issue with LinkedIn, and I lost my account. They shut me out of my account, and I have had an account for 23 years, and I've got 15,000 followers. So um, my life is LinkedIn. Everything I do is on LinkedIn. So that was a pretty tough bullet to swallow. But and I hope nobody on this call ever has that problem. But if you do, it literally took me 5 weeks to get my account turned back on and all my data back again. So I'm up and running. Thank God I can search again. So that's the good news. Um, so we've got about an hour here, 55 minutes or so. I think there's about 25 of you on the phone today. The bottom line is that this meeting is for you. It's not for me. Okay. I've got a job. I've got a business. I own a search firm, a retained search firm. We'll talk a little bit about retained search versus other types of search firms in a little bit, but I've got a job. So, what I'm here to do today is to help you hopefully answer some questions, give you some thoughts, give you some ideas, things to think about maybe differently than you have in the past. So that's the objective is today is to really, number one, answer any of the questions that you've got. But then number two is if as the call goes on, if you've got a question, you've got something you've always wanted to ask, put it in the chat box immediately. If you've got a question right now, we don't have to be on subject. If you've got a question, you came here for this meeting today, your time is very valuable. And so make sure you put it in the chat box. And Jeff is my wingman, and he keeps me honest and up to speed as far as what's in that box to make sure that we get all of your answers, all of your questions answered. Okay. So that's the ground rule. So no stupid questions. Put your questions in the chat box, and we'll get your questions for you. So I'd like to start off with kind of talking about the landscape. So what we're going to look at here in a little bit is we're going to go into LinkedIn Recruiter, and we're going to look at how recruiters use LinkedIn, and you'll get to see live data. You're going to see live candidates. I don't know that I'll be click on somebody that somebody may know on this call, but it's confidential. I'm going to click through. We're going to look at some profiles, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about when I suggest that you make changes to your profile. So we'll do that in a little bit, but to get the foundation down, so I'm a retained search executive. There's really three kinds of search people. Jeff's going to pop up a slide here for you. But there's three types of recruiters. There's internal recruiters, and these are the in-house recruiters. These are the people that work for large companies. I use the example of AT&T. They probably have 250 recruiters in their organization, maybe only 150, I don't know, but they've got a lot of recruiters. And those recruiters are working on silos. So you've got a set of recruiters that are working on finding personnel for the retail stores. That's all they do every day is they search for those kinds of people. And you can bet that they know exactly what kind of person they're looking for. They know their attributes. They know their number of years of experience. They know how many jobs that they've had, and the successful candidates have had. They're working on 30 or 40 jobs of these jobs at a time. They're very, very busy, and they rely very, very heavily on their applicant tracking systems, their ATS systems. So why is it important to know about in-house recruiters? Well, I want to share this because what I want you to do is think about your communication style and what you do and what you say with different types of recruiters. So just know that when you get your hands on, you get a phone call from, you're on the conversation, and you learn that you're dealing with an in-house recruiter. Number one, you want to make sure that you listen to their questions very, very carefully because, again, it comes back to they know exactly what they're looking for. Okay. They meet with their hiring managers on a regular basis, and they're not going to take a resume in there that is, hey, this is a great candidate, doesn't have any of the experience that we've used that are hired from in the past, but he's a really good person. You're not going to get through that funnel with internal recruiters. Okay. So then you go to the outside. So you've got a company now that has a job that they want to fill. They could be a big company. I work for many large companies, and it's a confidential search. They don't want their own recruiting team. They don't want their own HR department know that they're going to get rid of or they're going to fire somebody. And so they give me a confidential search to work on. So outside search firms, two type, contingent and then retained. Contingent, there can be as many as 4 or 5 contingent search firms that are working on any given search any given day. Okay. And so they're in it for a speed. Okay. They've got a team. Once they get a job, they fill jobs in weeks. They don't fill them in months. They fill them very, very quickly because they don't get paid any money unless they bring the candidate to the table that has the experience of what the company is looking for. Okay. So outside contingent search firms, they don't get paid anything unless they fill the job. They're going to submit resumes quickly. If you have submitted a resume to a company that they're talking to you about, in any regard, you should tell a recruiter that you've already submitted an application or you've had a conversation. But they submit resumes very quickly. They don't wait to have a batch of resumes. They send them as they get them. And again, they work very, very fast. And then retained search firms, that's what I do. Companies find me and they pay me a chunk of money up front. I'm confidential or I'm exclusive. So I'm the only one that's working on that search firm. So I'm exclusive. I get paid a chunk of money up front, and then the balance is due on the opposite end when I place the candidate. And I have a different relationship with companies because my job is to challenge them on finding the best candidate. And so I may present candidates that don't have exactly the experience that the company is looking for. They've got the experience, but they may have some other components to their background that the company hadn't thought about or isn't necessarily didn't prioritize. Because again, I am trying to solve a problem. These are companies that I'm working with. These aren't people that generally hire a lot of people, and so it's a little bit of coaching and mentoring and communicating along the way. So that's the difference between recruiters and how you communicate with them. In all cases, you want to be honest with recruiters. You want to tell your story quickly. I think if I were to give you one suggestion, and it's in general, but um, the um, the biggest mistake that candidates make in talking to recruiters is you offer way too much information way too early. I use the example that a lot of candidates hear about an opportunity and they just kind of vomit all over the phone because they're so excited to talk to a recruiter about that job. And I want you to take a pause and take a minute as you talk to recruiters and try to learn about what the job really is. And before you start providing a lot of information about your background. Now, these conversations go quickly, so you don't have a lot of time to digest or to figure out what all those questions are. But you want to make sure that you're digging into what is the biggest problem that the company's trying to solve. Why is the job open? Who does it report to? Obviously, all the other questions as it relates to vacation and salary and everything else, you definitely want to leave off this call. If you're a candidate of interest, you're going to get that data along the way. So you don't necessarily need to tell somebody up front what you're looking for. Um, and but in general, those are the three types of recruiters. Jeff, any questions so far?
Not yet.
Okay. So the next thing we want to do, Jeff, is let's just go right into LinkedIn. So I'm going to share my screen. Is that what I do? I share my screen and I'm going to go to, I actually think I've got a LinkedIn pulled up. Maybe I don't. Let's see. Let's do this. Hold on a second, Jeff. Let me go to this. I still get all kinds of error messages when I pull up LinkedIn. So okay, now let's go to the video. Let's go to share screen. Let's go to right. So again, I didn't have any of this 6 weeks ago when we did the last presentation. I had to do it flying by the seat of my pants because I didn't have anything to refer to. But so here's the LinkedIn page that everybody else has got. This is pretty simple. You navigate through this every day. But then over here, I've got a product that I go to that's called Recruiter. And I'm going to go into a particular project that I'm working on right now. And I'm actually going to go to this one. And I'm going to do a to refresh. No. Okay, so let's go to. Okay, so I'm working for a company and I'm looking for a public relations manager. Okay, if anybody on this call is a public relations manager or knows anybody that's a public relations manager, I want to know them now. So don't hesitate to tell your friends if that's what you do. That I'm actively looking for. I'm actively looking for a PR manager, and I'm looking for somebody that's actually is PR, not marketing communications. So there's a big difference in that. And this is a consumer packaged goods company, but I'm not as concerned about having somebody that's got food and beverage in their background as I am just somebody that's a strong PR person that knows how to build relationships with, the Today Show, the Good Morning of Americas. They do large activations where they spend, 30, 40, $50 million on advertising and promotions and so forth. So again, if you know anybody like that, that's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to just give you a quick snapshot of what this looks like. So we're in we're in this search, and you can see over here on the left side where I can save searches. I can look at save searches. I can put in custom filters if I want to. In this particular case, I'm looking for a public relations manager or public relations specialist. I could put the town if I wanted to, or I could put the city, I could put the state, I could put the country. For right now, I just leave it completely wide open because they have a relocation budget that they will relocate. If there were special skills or assessments, this is where I would put those in. So, we talk about AI a lot. I use AI like you use AI occasionally. And one of the things I might do is I might take the job description, put it in an AI, and ask it to give me the top 10 or the top keywords out of that job description. I can do that on my own with a highlighter, but AI does it for me in seconds, and it finds stuff that I wouldn't find normally. I could cut and paste all those, put them into a Boolean search there, and list the skills and assessments. If there were particular companies that I was targeting, I used to do some work for Mission Foods, and they love the blue chip companies, Kellogg, Kraft, Hershey's. Those were brands that they had a lot of respect for, up and down, from marketing to sales. So they love those brands. So if there was a brand that I was looking for, a company that I was trying to search for somebody, try to take somebody away from, I could put that in there. If this company is, they're, and I don't want to say they're stuck on themselves, they've got a very hybrid approach, and they're only going to take people from Harvard, I could put the schools in there if that was something that I was looking for. If I was searching for somebody in a particular region, I might put in universities within that region just because it would give me a different set of candidates. So I do use it occasionally. Years of graduation. So what it does is it gives me the ability to put in, did they graduate in 1976 or did they graduate in 1997? I can fluctuate that. Did they graduate in 2000? Are they going to graduate in 36? Well, that's a little bit far out. So I generally move this down to, for this role, I want this person to have about 10 years of experience. So, if they graduate in 2016 or before, they've got that. So I could put that in there. If I was looking for particular industries, food, beverage, I could put that in if I wanted to. If there were keywords or a Boolean, I could put that in there as well. And then if I want to, I can search by network relationships. So how closely are the candidates that I'm searching for? So in this particular case, there are 26 people that I'm connected to, okay, directly. So that's where I would go first, because these are the people that I can that I've got their email address generally, okay? And even if they're not the right candidate, even if they're not exactly what I'm looking for, so look, see what's coming up here. I'm looking for, you guys attest to this, right? I put the years in there, but I'm looking for public relations manager. And look at here, I'm pulling up integrated marketing leader and brand strategist. Okay, now Stephanie may be that person, but she's not a PR. She's a senior marketing manager at 7-Eleven. She's not, you can see how quickly I'm looking through here. Beambo, or at Brinker, she was a global marketing person, a marketing, customer relationship marketing. So I'm not even finding PR anywhere. Here she is, manager of PR and direct sales at Lexington. Well, that was too long ago. That was back in 2010, and she hasn't done that since. She doesn't have that experience in her background. So even though I've got Stephanie's contact information, her email address, I know a lot about her. She's not a candidate that I'd have a conversation with because she's not a fit. she's just not a fit at all. Now, while we're in here, Stephanie can teach us some other great things. Let's go to the very top. So again, we're connected. That's why I have her contact information. I don't have contact information on every candidate, only if I'm connected to them directly, and not in all cases do I even in that particular case. She's done a good job with her header. She's an integrated marketing leader and brand strategist. So she's used a lot of good keywords in her title to describe what she does. She's been very brief. She lives in Plano. She went to SMU, then to the Cox School of Business. Advertising services is her background. And then you come down here and you see her summary section. So this is a section that is the most unused real estate in job search. As a candidate, you need to fill this box up. 2,700 characters is, I think, the number 2,750, right, Jeff?
I think it's 2,600 last I heard.
26. That's a lot of characters. You can use those characters. You fill up those characters. This is where we write about ourselves. We talk about in a active voice about what we've done, who have we done it with, using keywords. What I would do is I would literally develop a list of keywords. This can change over time, but in the back of one of your notebooks, you start making a list of all the keywords that describe who you are and what you do. Okay. So those keywords then you make sure are smothered or sprinkled throughout your summary section and throughout your whole LinkedIn profile. Now, she has done a really nice job, y'all. Look at how she's done a good job of telling us at 7-Eleven the different things that she did, okay? So, I'm looking for a PR person, but I'm also looking for an omni-channel shopper marketing person. And look at here, buried in there, I found omni-channel and digital marketing execution, okay? So for a different job, even though I might not be interested in her for this role, she may know somebody that's calling on Brinker or 7-Eleven. She may know somebody that's a product manager or a shopper marketing person that I should talk to. So I have another reason that I'd want to talk to Stephanie. But the fact is, again, back to the example, she's done a really nice job of filling in and putting in using keywords to collaborate on what she's done and how she's done it, who she's done it with. So applaud to her for a great LinkedIn profile. The only things that are missing is if I was actively looking for a job, and even if I'm not in my particular field, I put it there. I would, in my summary section, I'd put my email address and my phone number. Okay. You are all at a point right now where you want to be found. When people reach or people find your LinkedIn profile, you want them to pick up the phone and call you, Barry. You don't want them to have to send an email. Okay. Did you know that only 7% of candidates reply to emails? 7%. So as a recruiter, I'm working on a search. I sit here at my desk and I send out 100 notes. Now, thankfully, my numbers are higher than that. I'm up in the 20% category. But remember, I sent 100 notes out. I'm only going to get 20 back. Those aren't very good odds, y'all. So as a candidate, if I click on your profile and your email address and or your phone number in there, you move to the head of the class. Did y'all play that game when you were a kid, where you roll the dice and you move to the head of the class and you got to roll and so forth? Well, you move to the head of the class when you're working with recruiters because we can reach you immediately. So game changer. If you're not comfortable with putting that information in there, you can take it back out after you get a job. This is not Match.com. So I'm an open networker. I've got 14,000 connections on LinkedIn. And maybe once every quarter, I get a text from somebody that says, "Hey, why haven't you texted me lately?" And I send a note back, "Who are you?" And then it's some spoof or some bot that's gotten my phone number from somewhere. So I highly recommend it. It is a game changer. Your phone will ring when you put your contact information out there, and use those characters to fill in that summary section so it's completely filled out. You're going to hear me talk about that on a regular basis. So let's move off of Stephanie and let's go to Manish, see what he's got here. So he is co-founder of a company, US founder side, director, digital marketing analytics. Again, I'm looking for a PR person. He was at Babson, president. I'm not finding any. Here we go. So back in his career, he was here in 2020. He was marketing and public relations manager, but he's a co-founder today. So he's not going to be interested in a role like that, and he doesn't have current experience doing that. I do have his contact information. Done a good job at his header here, SPF. Okay, but he's not actively looking, so no reason that he has to have his contact information in there. See, um, 9 numbers in a row. So that's why I can tell you right up front that there's no email address or phone number in there. Um, and he could do a better job of giving us more information on what he's done, but he's a co-founder, so he's probably not even actively looking. Let's look at Michael real quick. Michael is with Amazon, and he's a supply chain guy. So again, Boston Scientific, Gallo, great experience. He was Texas Tech, and back in college, he was an intern for Red Cross. So again, not a candidate that I'm looking to have a conversation with. No summary here, so Michael is not utilizing that space. But again, he's been at Amazon for almost 6 years, so he's probably not actively looking for a job. But definitely, if you were to coach Michael and give him some suggestions, he could do a lot more with that with his LinkedIn profile. Jeff, do we have any questions in the bar yet?
Yeah, we've got two of them.
Great.
Brian asked, how is it that I can make my profile stand out to recruiters? I think
Yeah,
you answered it with phone number and email. Put it in your summary statement.
yeah. That's one place, but then I think the second place is just keywords. You can see if you go back to that pane where I was showing you all the different things that I can search for. Okay. What I was going to get to next, I'm going to close this down. What I'm going to get to next is that we're in now, we're just looking at who I'm connected to first. So let's get out of there real quick. Let's clear that. Okay. So what I wanted to get to next is that, okay, if I didn't look at first connections, there are 140,000 people in LinkedIn that are public relations managers or specialists that are open to work. 37 are interested in my brand. 63,000 are active talent. That means they have put that wreath on and they've told recruiters and people that they're actively looking. 63,000, okay? 410,000 in my results. I cannot look at 410,000 people, y'all. I can look at if that number were closer to 1,000, I can look at 1,000 profiles in a day and a half, but I can't look at 410,000. So I've got to do something to narrow this down in order to look at to get the candidates that I'm looking for. So the person that asked that question, the way I'm going to get to your profile or to get to closer to your profile is when I start putting additional keywords in here and companies and you building a Boolean to talk about what I'm looking for as far as keywords. That's how you're going to stand out. That's how you're going to pop out. That's how you're going to move to the front of the class.
All right, we have a second question. Jill asked, what about executive roles, director and above? Would the same apply for the job details under each job?
Absolutely. Again, you're looking if you're looking for an executive job or you're looking for an admin. I mean, we're all in the same boat. We're all actively looking for a job, right? So it doesn't matter. I mean, executive search retains search executives like myself that fill CEO, CFO, CMO, CHRO roles. senior suite directors, vice presidents. We all use LinkedIn the same way, whether we're looking for an admin or we're looking for a CEO. We do the same things. We use the same, we develop, every search is different. So we're putting different companies in there, different target skills and assessments and those kinds of things. But in general, we're using LinkedIn the same way. So you have to do the same, you have to follow the same recipe by putting your contact information in there, filling out that summary section, using those keywords to populate that space, by making sure that your LinkedIn profile is fully filled out, that every job has got things that you've done. Now, if you're my age, you might end that early in your career, meaning you might not go back to when I started at Pepsi in 1981. I might say earlier in my career and put a couple of logos that what I did for the first 15 or 20 years. But you want that profile to be complete. One of the things that candidates often ask me is, well, that shows that I'm old. Well, guess what, people? If you're older in your career, everybody's going to find out at some point. You got to go to an interview. We're going to wear a mask. So if you're old, we can't hide it. Okay, we're seasoned. We're better at what we do. We're smarter. So you can't hide your age. I remember when a buddy of mine, I went to have coffee with him about 10 years ago, and he came into the meeting and he had dyed his hair. And I looked at him, I'm like, what did you do, Ray? And he's like, well, doesn't it make me look younger? And I'm like, no, I know you too well. You look stupid. So again, I'm not telling you to not dye your hair. I'm not telling you to not be attractive and not to, and all that. But the age thing, we're going to find out eventually how old you are. So if you're thinking you're hiding your age by not filling in your LinkedIn profile all the way, you're making a mistake, because we're going to still find out how old you are.
Kurt, Jill also said, I was told not to have the same details as my resume. Less is more.
Yeah, on a resume, that's for sure. I don't want to see a 5-page resume. A 2-page resume is all I want, even for an executive level job. If you can't be concise enough to put a 2-page resume in front of me, it tells me that you're not your attention to detail is probably very good, but you're not taking into consideration the reader. So for those of you that are on the call that have a 4 or 5-page resume, make sure you've got a 2-page version as well. But you should not, absolutely never copy and paste your resume into LinkedIn. LinkedIn gives you an active voice. It gives you a different voice and you can speak in than your resume does. And so you need to use that space and use those words and have the ability to tell those stories much different than a resume, for sure. I presented a candidate the other day to a company because I had his resume, but his LinkedIn profile was twice as good as his resume was. They still didn't want to talk to him, but your resume and your LinkedIn profile should definitely be different. Say the same thing, but different voices. Great questions, Jill. Anybody else?
Yep, that's it.
Okay. So back to the point, I'm continue to do this search. Now what I might do is I might go in here. One way to narrow this search down is to go in and put in key cities. So I don't want to put in Portland, but I want to put in Chicago is a key market for public relations. Miami, because this is a Hispanic brand, and so there's a lot of Hispanic people. There's a lot of PR in Miami as well. Los Angeles, not going to be. It's going to be a little more difficult to relocate somebody from Los Angeles to New York. But I'm going to put those 2 markets in there because they're good markets for these kinds of candidates. So now that 410,000, now it only went down to 36,000. So I still have way too many people to look at. I better put in Dallas, right? Why not? We know what we get when we put in just Dallas because I've already looked at that. So you can see that this is one way of starting to hone that down. Now I'm down to 37,000. But I might put in here in I'm going to go back up to uh, industries, keywords, and I might go in here and put in. I'm going to put in public relations, not marketing communications. I think I got to put that all in a parentheses or in a quote. See how that changes it. Now I'm down to 180 results. Okay, so you can see how I can alter this thing pretty quickly. Just out of just out of curiosity, let's look at Nellie and see if she's even close to what I'm looking for. So she is a public relations manager. She works in the hotel industry currently. She's been there for a year. Um, I don't know what Be Real is, but that's not all companies can you click on it. But for instance, if I wanted to, that's one of the things I could click on that and it'll tell me who the company is. But Be Real must be a smaller organization. She was there for quite a while. So she's got an interesting background. Um, because she's been a PR person for only a year and she's a manager, chances are it's not a candidate I'd want to talk to. But then this is also a miniature application tracking system as well. So I've got the ability to save candidates. Okay, I can tell the system that I've contacted them or I've uncontacted them. They've replied to a message. So this is a way and a tool for recruiters to use to keep track of who they're talking to and where they're at in the conversation. So it offers you with a lot of products. Now, a lot of flexibility. Now, what I would share with you all is that what you're getting a demonstration of here today is what is called LinkedIn Lite or Recruiter Lite. Okay. Recruiter Lite costs me $175 a month. $1,700 a year, or $1,400 to $1,500 a year. Okay. There's another product called Recruiter. That's the full Recruiter, and that product would cost me about $2,800 a month. So I'm not using the full Recruiter product. The differences are that you can send more in mails without having to pay for them, and it gives you a little bit more search capabilities, a little bit more in depth. When you're up at the top of this bar and you see here where these are active candidates, in LinkedIn Recruiter, I could click on that and see those people directly. But you can see here that in order, if I want to see just those active candidates, I've got to upgrade to a LinkedIn Recruiter product. Okay. So that's a little bit more about LinkedIn Recruiter, and how it works. But in general, any other questions about how we use LinkedIn? I mean, we fly through this stuff, y'all. So you saw when I'm looking at profiles, we didn't go here, but he is senior director, communications, media relations, definitely the right background. He's in the news industry. He'd have a lot of great contacts. Um, I don't want to be assumptive, but he's probably making more than what I've got a budget for. So for that reason, I would probably reach out to Robert to see if I could build a relationship with him, to see if he would get back to me, just so I could say, hey, maybe you know somebody more junior. You're in New York. You're probably in a lot of networking groups. You do a lot of other things in the community. Maybe you know somebody that does what you do that makes less, that would be interested in moving to Dallas. So as a recruiter, I'm always keeping the blinders off, trying to figure out how I can have contact or communications with a company. The other role that I'm working on is as a shopper marketing omni-channel manager. I'm not looking for a brand manager. That's what they do not want. Unfortunately, with this particular role, everybody's got a different definition for what they think is shopper marketing and omni-channel. So making it a little difficult to work on this particular project. But as an example, something that maybe somebody on this phone has a contact. I'll tell you what, Jeff, two people raised their hands to help me with that LinkedIn stuff, and they were incredibly helpful and valuable. So, um, sometimes by putting out what you're looking for, Jeff told you that at the beginning. If you're looking for introductions to specific companies, put it in the chat box because somebody may have worked at that company or may have a friend or a contact that can help with an introduction, and you can bypass the recruiting team. But in this particular case, I'm looking for a buyer up in Bentonville at Walmart. Why would I want to talk to a buyer? Well, because the buyers, in particular, this shopper marketing manager is going to have responsibility for calling on Walmart. But in addition, if I could get my hands on or have a conversation with a buyer at Walmart, they know the best shopper marketing omni-channel executives that are calling on Walmart today, and they know the ones that are available, the ones that are actively looking. So that's again now that's the little bit of creativity that I bring to the table, but that's how I keep the blinders off, and I'm always trying to figure out how I can build new relationships with candidates to open up doors that I didn't have open before. So that is one of the things that you as candidates should be doing as well, is making sure that you take the blinders off. Some of you have worked for more than 5 years. And so we have a tendency as we get a little older in our career we know it all, we know too much. And in a job search, you can't have that attitude because you can't accept job offers until you get job offers. So turning down jobs before you've had an interview or turning down jobs after just one interview may not be the best solution. Now, if you go into the interview and it's not an environment that's safe and clean and you can't see yourself working there and you absolutely had the worst miserable hour of your lifetime, then maybe you don't accept the opportunity to come back, and that's not a place that you want to work. But remember, I send a lot of candidates in for jobs, and I get a call back from the CEO, and they say, "Hey, we're going to make Bob an offer for the director of XYZ." And I'm like, "Well, I didn't even know you had that job open." And he said, "Well, we didn't either. We've been talking about it for a long time, but when we met Bob, he's got exactly what we're looking for. So send me an invoice for Bob, but keep looking for that other job because we still want to fill that as well." So if Bob hadn't gone for that interview because he didn't like the title of what he was going in for, or he was concerned about it not being senior enough, he just got a promotion by accepting that interview and going to that interview. So don't be the guy that doesn't take that interview, and accept all those interviews and have those conversations. Jeff, I
Well,
think we go ahead.
yeah, couple questions have come in. Viz News asking how to convince a hiring manager that says that I'm overqualified for the job that I've interviewed for.
Repeat that question.
Well, the overqualified bit. If
Yep.
the interviewer goes and says, "Hey, I think you're overqualified for this position," what do you do? What do you say?
Yeah. Well, I think it could go in a number of different ways. I'm gonna give you a live experience. I'm working with this company on a PR person. They've interviewed one person just one time. They came back and they said to me that this person's too senior. And I said, well, you had it as a junior role, you made it a senior role. Now you've taken it back to a junior role. And I'm really giving you a candidate that's the best of both worlds. You want somebody that can come into that role, that PR role, and run PR, even if the hiring manager, the director's not in the office, even if she's out on maternity leave, you know that you're going to have somebody in that office that knows PR and it's going to run the whole place. Versus the other candidate that I sent you is a PR person, but she's only got 6 years of experience. She's still going to need a little bit of handholding. She's still going to have to check the boxes and have permission to do certain things and so forth. Where Patty can come in and crush this thing for you, and she doesn't bring attitude. She brings a servant leadership, coach mentoring kind of mentality. So if I were talking to a hiring manager and he said that I was overqualified, maybe as you progress through the system and you've gotten to know more about the opportunity, you could say to the manager, yeah, I understand that. But I also understand that you've got a really qualified team group of people here in your organization and a whole bunch of high achievers. And I'm not that person. I would be really happy to come in and do the work of this job and to have this job for the next 8 years. Okay. I'm not going to be knocking on your door every week asking for a promotion or more money. I am so excited about this job. I know I can be excited about it for the next 8 years. That's a differentiator from Bob that might come in here that may be a little bit younger, may not be as experienced, but he's going to be a climber. He's likely going to be somebody that wants to climb the organization, and not everybody can do that in every organization. Again, you have to know a lot about the organization. You have to be pretty confident about that, saying those kinds of things, but that may be an avenue that you go. But I think that anytime that you're in a job interview and they start talking senior, you want to make sure that you don't get defensive, okay? Because you don't want this conversation to go into the age category, okay? We don't want to be, oh, so are you concerned that I'm 60 years old? You don't want to put the hiring manager into a controversial conversation. So be careful from that perspective. But I think by demonstrating leadership and being an effective part of the team are attributes that every hiring manager should be looking for. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Now let's go back. I also, it comes back to this fact finding, Jeff. We talk about this in a lot of different places, not always on my calls, but fact finding about an organization is critical. So understanding the size of the team that you're going to be working for, knowing who's on that team so that you can go into LinkedIn and find their profiles and see exactly where they came from, where they went to school, absolutely critical. And that'll give you a pretty good idea of the genetics of the team as far as the makeup of the age and so forth of the team will help you. And that will help you in the communication and in your interviews immediately. Go ahead to the next question.
All right. Jeff says, my job title is regenerative tissue specialist. Much of it is selling skin substitutes. That title is very specific. Other companies use different titles. Does that hinder job searches? If so,
No.
why overcome it?
Yeah, great question. Okay, so you heard me talk about that shopper marketing, okay? I'm not looking for a brand manager. I'm not looking for a brand strategist. I'm looking for shopper marketing. Now, the interesting thing is in talking to the executive team, I've asked them to define what shopper marketing means to them because it's got a different definition. Different companies define it differently. I see Mark Schneider's on this call, and I think he came out of your friend Mark. I think you are a friend of our mutual friend Rick Peterson, and you came out of the consumer packaged goods company. And every company in the business calls marketing, shopper marketing, omni-channel, brand strategy something different. And so I'm finding that every day. But what I would do if I were you is you're absolutely right. But I would look at my LinkedIn profile as an example, and I don't mean that you literally have to go to my LinkedIn profile, but in that summary section, I would put all those different words that describe what you just said. Okay. You're a skin specialist, that, and then all those other fancy terms that every other company uses. There might be 8 of them or 9 of them. I would put them all in my summary section. If you look at my summary section, it says headhunter, recruiter, search executive, you know, coach, career coach. I mean, all that kind of stuff. Because just because I'm a recruiter doesn't mean that people look for recruiters. They look for headhunters. They look for executive search. They look for retained search. They look for different words. So I want to make sure whatever they put in that keyword section, whatever they give me as a title, I'm going to pop up on their radar somewhere. I would do the same thing if I were you. I think it'll help and improve your search immediately.
All right. Let's see here. Joseph asked, what about gaps in employment?
Yep. Everybody's going to have them. I mean, the day, I'm a storyteller to some degree. The old days when my dad came home and he was in the sales business and he worked in the forging industry, automotive business back in Michigan a long time ago. I remember I was probably only 8 or 9 years old, and he came home and he told the family at dinner that he had lost his job. And he said, this is table talk. I don't want you to go tell your friends or tell our neighbors or tell anybody else. This is something that we just talk about in our family and our table. It was a very quiet moment. He was very sad. He was very disappointed that he didn't keep that job and so forth. So those days are gone. Okay. Everybody on this call has probably been let go or has changed jobs a couple of times in their career. So it's okay. What you want to do though is not try to cover it up. Okay. If you have been off for a year, but you've been consulting, then put that in your resume that, fill that gap up that you were in, but make it very clear that you were consulting. And it could have been your own consulting company or it could have been a consulting for somebody else, but fill in the gaps the best you can. Don't lie about it. LinkedIn and your resume are not legal documents, but when you fill out a job application, that is a legal document. So you can be slippery with dates a little bit. I mean, you can use years. You can say that you were with a company through 2026. So I look at that and I would say, oh, you're still working. Well, I was up until a month ago or 2 months ago or 3 months ago. But if you were not at that company since 2023, I don't think that it's appropriate to put that you're still at that organization or put 26 in there. You probably want to end it in 23 or 24, worst case. But that's my suggestion on that.
Let's see here. Doris says, having been a senior merchant at Sam's Walmart and brand manager for CPG, I'm having a hard time getting places in either industry now that I've moved from Bentonville to Dallas. Could they think I'm too expensive? Anyway, is there any way to let recruiters know that I'm looking not for the same level of scope or pay?
Yeah, there's really nothing. You don't want to discuss any kind of salary or any information on LinkedIn. I think it's in the conversations that people may be assuming that you're making too much money, so they don't necessarily know. But I would think it would be the opposite, that you get more money in Dallas and less in Bentonville, just because it's a lot less expensive to live up there and so forth. But I must be mistaken. Um, those skills though that you got do translate into some of the things that I'm often looking for. So whoever asked that question, make sure you put on your radar to give me a call and check in with me.
All right.
Thanks,
Julia
Doris.
asked, I was told to take MBA off my profile unless the job description asks for an MBA requirement. Is that true?
No, I would never suggest. I mean, that's an education that you bought and you earned, you work hard for. If there's a company that's not and they're intimidated by the MBA factor, then you don't want to work there. You've worked hard. You can't. That's like taking your college education off of it. It was 4 years of your life, and in a lot of cases, you spent some of your own money to get that degree and so forth. And somebody wants you to dumb it down. I would never dumb down my resume or my LinkedIn profile. I'd be very proud of it. And again, if the company doesn't value that education, then then you don't want to work there. I'm sorry to say, but that's just I had to coach a candidate today that the company that she was interviewing with just treated her very poorly as far as late on calls and missed calls and missed interviews and I said I wouldn't work there if I were you either. I don't blame you for pulling out. I'm in the same boat. I don't accept that behavior. So um, don't hide your MBA ever. No.
All right. Brian asked, what about career transitioners? I'm transitioning from one industry to another, but I'm modifying my LinkedIn profile. And he puts this a note. He happens to have his master's too.
Yep. So if you're making a transition between companies, the way I describe it to candidates is you need to build a bridge between where you're at today and where you want to go. Okay. Because you're going to help communicate. If you're working for a lot of people that get to be my age, maybe a little bit younger, they've worked in for-profit companies, and they come out and they go, this is a time in my life that I really would like to go work for a non-for-profit. And I applaud them for that. I think that's great. But you need to know a lot. That non-for-profit, just because you were on a board, you saw how ineffective they operated. It's very similar like that every day. I mean, there's a lot of things that are different in a non-for-profit than are in a company for-profit. And so, just because you've got a good background, you're a finance executive or you're a CEO, doesn't make you a good for non-for-profit. So that's one example, but you got to build a bridge between what you're doing and where you want to go. Um, and that's going to be really hard to do on LinkedIn. Okay. You can do it on your resume pretty easy, but trying to balance both of those and having two profiles almost is going to be impossible. So it's going to be the work that you do, the heavy lifting that you do. Now you can change that summary and you can put in there the story of that you're making this transition and tell that story a little bit without using all your words. That's one place you could put it, but you're going to have to do a lot of the heavy lifting to make that transition yourself. It's not going to be real obvious for recruiters or other people that are potentially looking for you. Your resume is not going to stick out. You're going to have to do a little bit more selling and explain why the skills that you had in this job are transferable to this organization and this brand or this organization, this culture. Does that make sense?
Yep, yep. All right, one last question here. Daniel asked, is it appropriate to reach out on LinkedIn to an HR manager for a company that you have applied to before you happen to hear from them?
Absolutely. When I was in college, my professor would, one of the classes was a sales class. He'd hand me a big pen. He'd say, sell me the big pen. And that's when you would start talking about the fact that, well, this is a really nice pen. It looks nice. It's really comfortable in my hands. It's got nice branding on it. It's not going to bleed in my pocket. It doesn't seem to be. It's got a really nice color to it. It writes real easily. And it's a pen that I would give somebody. Okay. Well, guess what? You are all the big pen now. You are selling yourself. Okay. So you have to describe yourself to companies and to people in what you bring to the table. Okay. Whether it's communication skills or effective leadership, or it's, a skill that you've got or knowledge that you've got or experience that you've got, but you're selling yourself all the time. And it's you got to get out of the mode of just presenting yourself and start selling yourself. So when do you make that call, you send that email, and then when do you call the second time? You call back in 2 or 3 days. The message might be a little bit different. Sally, it's Kurt again. And I know I left you a message earlier this week, and I know and appreciate the fact that you are crazy busy. But if you've got 3 minutes, I would love to chat with you. Call me anytime, even after work, at this number, and make sure you give them your contact information. Um, so absolutely. And you quit calling only when they tell you, Doris, don't call me anymore. Okay. So that's when you stop calling some people. But up until that point, you should continue. If you've got a phone number of a company that you're trying to get into, you've got the experience. Now, there's a lot of candidates, y'all, and I'm sure everybody intends well, but there's a lot of times that candidates will call me and they'll say, "I am the perfect fit for that job." And I'm like, okay, you're an electrician, and I'm looking for a marketing person. I don't see how this translates into this role at all. You got to share with me. Maybe you sent me the wrong resume. So, um, you know, if you got credible reason to call and reach out to that company and you've got the experience that they're looking for, absolutely, I would make a call and continue to call until they call you back or email and tell you that they don't want you to call anymore.
All right. Well, Kurt, thank you very much. We're at the top of the hour. I don't want to keep people any longer. Thank you very much for your
So
time.
just a couple of quick things, Jeff.
Yeah.
Couple of quick things. So if you would go back and watch, we didn't talk about the prayer letter today, but if you go back and watch some of Jeff's old videos, watch mine on the prayer letter. I think it's a really good 10 or 15 minutes of your time. Make sure that you have your email signature block on your email, on every email that goes out and every email that you reply to, and make sure that it's got your email address, your phone number, and your link to your LinkedIn profile. Okay, you're at a point where you want to be connected, and not all recruiters carry your resume with them everywhere they go. So when they go to your email and they want to try to get you immediately because the company's decided they want to make you an offer, and your LinkedIn or your resume or he's got emails from you, but he can't find that resume, and your email signature block doesn't have a phone number on there, put your email address, your phone number, and your LinkedIn profile. Okay. And you're doing God's work. It's heavy lifting, but you all will find a job. It's a bad place to be, but I'm confident that you all are going to find a job, and I will continue to pray for everybody on this phone. So thank
Hey,
you for
hey,
your time
Kurt,
today. Yeah.
one question. Does your process as you're recruiting include an AI filter before it gets to you, whether it's the application or the resume?
I don't. There are a lot of AI products out there. My son works for a company called Cinecure, and it's a product that recruiters use. Now, I've been on a lot of a lot of conference, been to not a lot of conferences, but a lot of webinars and seminars on AI and recruiting. And I'll tell you what, the fact of the matter is, there's not a product out there in the market that can help companies find candidates better candidates than they're finding today using LinkedIn and using the internet the way there is. What AI is doing for the recruiting industry is it's streamlining the process. So it writes letters for you, it sends communication out, it helps with presentations to companies. So it does some of those kinds of things, but it does not help find candidates. There's not a product out there that is, because everybody's database is LinkedIn. Okay. When I use test my son's product, 80% of the profiles that I pull up are LinkedIn profiles. So I can find those on my own. I don't need them, but I can use AI to streamline some of the other processes, writing job descriptions, some of those kinds of things. But on the day to day, it helps with the back end for these large conglomerates in the recruiting business with their process and all that stuff. But it doesn't help them find candidates better. Use LinkedIn, fill in, use all that space, and then go to Terry Sullivan's presentation as well, right, Jeff?
Yes, definitely.
And when you go to Terry Sullivan's presentation, y'all, he doesn't video it because this is what he does for a living. I'm not suggesting that you video it, but make sure you got a notepad and a pen handy because you're going to take a page of notes. He gives you so much information.
Right.
They're all good, but Terry's especially good for those of you that are a little more technical.
All right. Well,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kurt, thank you very much. All right. Coming up next Friday. Let me get a few things over here so I can do this right. Uh, Locke Alderson will be with us to talk about how to use LinkedIn for job hunting strategies to get results. So come join us next Tuesday at 1 o'clock. This coming Wednesday, tomorrow, the practice interview team is meeting in person. So feel free to come join them from 1 to 3 o'clock. Christ United Methodist Church in Plano. If you live in the DFW area, come watch a practice interview. You will learn as much as you do by being interviewed yourself. A little less stressful watching somebody else being interviewed, but you will still learn a lot. This Friday at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group, 9:30 on Friday morning. We're going to do open forum as we do the first Friday of every month. You have questions about your job search, ask us. And everybody who's there, everybody's participating can offer their suggestions and their opinions on your questions. So come join us for that. It's always a very never know what we're going to talk about. It's all over the place. So come join us on Friday. You're welcome to join the Career DFW or careerusa.org LinkedIn groups. I started each one when I started the websites. You do not need to live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area to join the Career DFW one. We have over 16,300 members in that group, but this is a great way to connect with other people who are on LinkedIn that you can reach out to in your searches. This session has been recorded. It will be on the Career USA YouTube channel later this afternoon. If you want, subscribe to the channel. That way, every time we post a new video, you'll find out about it. On the careerusa.org YouTube channel, click on playlist, and then down you see that red arrow where it says view full playlist. Click the playlist that you want, and up will come a list of all the dates in chronological order, the speakers, and you can go back in and watch any of the videos that are there. If you're not receiving emails about our workshops, just you can join the Career USA mailing list. Just scan this QR code and send a blank email to groups.io, or you just put in the to area Career USA + subscribe at groups.io. You don't have to put anything in the body of the message. Just send us an email and we will get you added. We only send out a couple of emails a week with the links to what we have going on. Please remember, Career DFW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. All of our speakers are volunteers. I'm a volunteer. Everything I've been done over the last 17 years has just been to help you land your next great opportunity. So thank you very much for joining us today, everybody. Have a great week, and hopefully see you later in the week.